Thank you, Marshall. I appreciate that. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the September 13th, 2023 CALPADS Q A. My name is Paul Higgins. I am a data analyst working at CSIS supporting CALPADS. As for announcements, let's see. We do have last week, the fall one trainings announcement did go out. So we have fall one trainings going on through Bridge. You can always use our YouTube channel as an alternative. Because not much has changed between years, although there will be some changes coming up that will be discussed in an upcoming flash that is being discussed that will kind of summarize and be an omnibus bill for summary for what happens next week, right before this meeting again next week. Next Tuesday will be the maintenance build that completes the year-end rollover. So that is going to bring a lot of stuff into focus, and I'm going to let Angela talk about that. And if she wants to talk about it today, that's great. Otherwise, she'll talk about it next week. All right, I think that was all I had for announcements. Angela, do you have anything?
I don't have anything today.
Martha, Client Services, Sean, anybody?
No, I have nothing.
All right, then I'm going to go over to the chat box, and looks like there's only one person in there right now asking questions. Oh, there we go. All right, Q1 at 3:01, Laura. And Laura asks, we have a staff member, job class 10, with non-classroom based job assignment of 6029 that we reported for the 2023 and 21-22 academic years. However, they passed away in June of 2021. Should I remove the 2 years after they were deceased? I know this may seem like a no-brainer, but we want to make sure before I remove the records and put in a leave date. Yes, go back and correct the data, but now that you have 2 years of certified data with the deceased staff member in there, you may also want to put a note in there to reflect why, if they ran reports right now for that same time frame, there would be different results. That way you could explain away that you reported a staff member erroneously for those 2 years. So yes, please change the data that is in CalPADS currently and make a note in their file. Lavita at 3:03. Q1, as per the dashboard deadline document, quote, summer graduates, end quote, will shift from being counted as 4-year graduates in the prior school year to the 5-year graduates in the subsequent school year. The CDE will account for the change on the 2024 dashboard in the calculation for the graduation rate indicator, so LEAs are not adversely impacted by this shift in deadlines. How will CDE distinguish the actual 5th-year graduates from the summer school graduates because of our summer school is after the school year?
I'll take a stab at it. Be nice.
I was going to say, Martha, you want to
go? I don't think they're going to make a distinction. There's not going to be any more. Well, you may still think of them as summer school graduates, but what we're shifting is we're cutting off who's in the cohort on June 30th. So in the past, we would give LEAs up until August 15th to graduate kids into that prior year school year of graduates. Well, they're not going to do that anymore. So they're going to end the cohort on June 30th, and any student that graduates in July or August will be in they would be in the cohort based on where their 9th grade year was. And if they were supposed to have graduated in that prior year, they would be considered a 5th-year senior. I hope that makes sense to you. Now, I think Paula made some mention of AMART maybe trying to do something when they do that calculation to somehow help LEAs understand the difference in counts that they're going to get for the 23-24 cohort because of that shorter cutoff. But I think that's still under discussion on what that would look like come next EOI.
All right, moving on to Nathan at 3:03, Q1. Good afternoon. My Ed Services Department is asking for a list of our unduplicated students for the current academic year. I want to confirm that the ODS 1.18 report would be the best way to collect this data at this time. Kyron is saying, yes, that is a way to do that. I would also recommend the 1.2 since the 1.18 is a subset of the population, not the entire population. So if you want the entire population, it'd be the 1.2. If you want the subset detail, then you want the 1.18.
I think when they use the word unduplicated, it's often the unduplicated pupil counts, which come off of the 117 and 118. So I don't know if,
okay.
Nathan, that's what you were referring to when you called it unduplicated students. If you're just looking for enrollments, what Paul said was great. But if you're looking for that unduplicated pupil count, it's the 117 and 118 that gives, and the 118 gives you the detail of who's
Perfect. Thank you for
counted.
that. I appreciate that distinction. I would not have made that. Ethan, 304 Q1. Hi, everyone. Are there any updates? Oh, hi, Ethan. Are there any updates coming to SSID matching results when they are hyphenated student names? We've been incorrectly generating new SSIDs. Quite a bit of the otherwise perfect SSID matches are not showing up at all. Matching score dropped to below 80% if we have a hyphen discrepancy with the previous LEA's name spelling. Often we only determine this when the student is in the middle of the initial LPAC and they mention that they've taken this test before. And Sean is also inquiring with Ethan about what SIS he uses, and he is a Power School customer.
Okay, so Ethan, I need to look into Power School. I know with Aries, though, this is slightly amended for them just because they have 2 additional features that they can turn on that shows both like parent information to help determine that for you, and it'll still, so that way you can, whether or not it has the hyphen or whether or not it has or does not have the hyphen, it'll still help you delineate between that. So let me look into Power School and I will get back to you on that one.
And I think perhaps another way, Angela, maybe you want to speak to, we are testing out the SSID match tool with Elasticsearch, and that's not in production yet, but that may be a new feature, may accommodate the hyphenation better. Is that right, Angela?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Yep.
Mute issues. I believe it's going to strip out, the Elasticsearch is going to strip out hyphens, and so it'll just match seamlessly. I'm going to double check that while we're on the call, and if that's not the case, I'll speak back up later.
Thanks.
Thank you, Angela. All right, moving on to Eric, 304. Eric's 304 question 1. We have a student enrolled in our school as an 8th grader. The student last attended another district as a 2nd grader during the 17-18 school year. The previous district identified the student as IFEP. The student left the country and has now returned. The previous district exited the student as E450. And now the student is in great need of EL services. Can this student be tested again to see if they qualify as EL? So is the does the combo include IFEP to TBD? I don't recall if it goes IFEP to TBD.
Kyron used to memorize that.
Yes, he did.
TBD.
Is that a valid co-combo?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Let me see. It should just be an IFEP to EO.
But he needs to be tested again because he's in need of EL services because he left the country for 6 years.
So it should
7
be
years.
IFEP to EL. So
No, IFEP to TBD.
yeah, if it's an IFEP before 2018, then they could just potentially just delete the IFEP and send in a TBD.
Okay. Eric, you've been given guidance by Kyron to delete that IFEP and put in a TBD with the non-primary language or a primary language, not English. So you're our crash test dummy, Eric. Let us know how it goes. That's a joke, but if you do want to let us know, that'd be great too. Susan, 305 Q1, how is foster and homeless data reported? And if I needed a current list, what report should I pull? Okay, Susan. The reports are the 5.7, 8, 9, and 10, is it? Or is it
Just through 9, 5.7 through 5.9 for
There you go.
foster.
5.7 through 5.9 are all the fosters. Those reports are populated through a weekly data match between CDE and CDSS, where anybody who is defined as foster youth either is in a family maintenance or something placement, non-family placement, and it's all defined in an MOU between CDE and CDSS, and all the students who are qualified as foster youth come back in a file, and it populates that report and populates the foster youth indicator. There's very little you can do locally to influence that. However, on the detail report, it does identify students' social workers. So if a student counselor wanted to reach out to a social worker to figure out more about those students, contact information is available. And if you have further questions about it, please open a service desk ticket and we will find you whatever detail we have available.
Which report is homeless on? That's a 5.x report too, right?
5.4, 5.5. Oh, for 4.1. Yeah.
I thought it was 5.7. Foster youth, yeah.
No, homeless.
No, homeless.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because our question was about homeless and foster. And while we're looking for it, definitely we do
okay, there it
homeless in
is.
EOI 3.
Yeah, 5.4 and 5.5, yes. And those you have control over because you have to create the program record. Is it a 191? Or
Yes.
191 to identify them as homeless and whether they are an unaccompanied minor, a runaway, whatever it is. And then that program record needs to be validated once per year to make sure that it is updated to reflect when they are no longer homeless.
You could also run the SPRG ODS because this is a snapshot report, right? And I don't know how accurate the ODS report is throughout the year, but if you wanted to know homeless, you could also do an ODS extract and just look for the program code that equals homeless to see who you currently have. And then, Paul, I wanted to also mention on how foster data is reported. There is an option for manual matching of foster youth, and that was documented where Alex was in the user manual. It speaks to the local foster match maintenance functionality in CALPADS. They have to have a client ID in order to manually do the match.
True. I did give the boiled down version because that whole 3-file return and
yes,
it gets to be a nightmare, but there is additional detail behind it if you are curious. All right. Okay, moving on to Chantal at 305 Q1. Has there been any change in the way program 101 504 accommodations interact with TOMS? A coworker went to a meeting where they were told TOMS would not get 504 information anymore.
No, there's no change. I think what they're confusing it with is the new SPED documents or the new SPED files. This is Brandy from CDE, by the way. So there hasn't been any change to the 504 information. It is still collected via a program record and is reported through your student information systems. Right now, and what that person might be referencing is the fact that none of the special education data system vendors, SACE, Cyrus, Welligent, none of them have been sending up SPED records since July 1st in preparation for our new SPED redesign. And so they're not getting information on designated supports and accommodations for newly identified kids or kids who are newly transferring into your districts right now. We've worked with the vendors to make sure that the vendors can generate those records in the interim until the redesign goes live next week. But 504 should be exactly the same.
Perfect. Thank you, Brandy.
No problem.
And just so you know, you didn't have to announce yourself. We recognized you.
Oh, thank you. Recognize my raspy voice.
We consider it your husky voice.
Oh, is that what it is? That's great. Thanks.
All right, at 304, we have Elizabeth's Q1. Maybe I asked and answered at some point, but when I first come into the office and want to run a SPED discrepancy extract or SSID extract, the extracts tab is not showing, and I don't see it until later in the morning. Is that normal? And should I run the extract in the afternoon before I leave if I want to work on it in the quiet of the early morning hours? Thanks. And I see that Robin did answer. Yes, that is normal. The extracts and the ODS reports both require the overnight processes to complete running. And if they run long for any reason, having them appear on the UI, the user interface, is delayed. They usually become available between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning. I think that they've only gone long a few times, and we were notified that they wouldn't be available for a while. But yes, that is a normal thing.
So Paul, can I just tag on one little tidbit of information with respect to the SPED discrepancy extract?
Of course.
As of Monday, it's being deprecated. It won't be there anymore. So because now we have new file types, and those file types do not collect demographic information from the special ed systems. So unfortunately, we cannot give you the SPED discrepancy extract anymore.
And up on the screen, you can see a very nice graphic where there's an X through it. That's nice.
I would add also that working on it in the afternoon, you have to realize that the extracts are a day behind. So overnight is when we copy over what's in production into the area where the extracts pull the data. So you could work on it in the afternoon, but you're a day behind. You're not working on the same day's changes.
And then I would like to add, you're getting the full wraparound here. It's not normal that it's taking you that long. It's a problem. And so I believe somebody asked us last Wednesday. I wasn't at the stand up the next day because I was at Randy's SPED meeting. So Martha, did you get it? I think you got a chance to ask about, are they working on, are they still trying to make progress on tuning that so it does finish earlier in the morning?
I think that was the architect's ticket, and he said he will take a look at it.
So no extra news on that, but it's not ideal. We would like it to be available when CALPADS comes online in the morning.
Moving on, we have Gabrielle at 306 Q1. SPED student left PUSD to private school in June of 2022. Student was exited with code 76. Student went to private school for 22-23 and 23-24. Parents submitted a revocation request in September 2023, so this month. Student did not receive SPED services for 22-23 nor 23-24. How do we handle the revocation now in 23-24? Hey, Joe, question for you.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to reference Brandy's PowerPoint slide that she did a roadshow, slide 37, which probably is depicting the same scenario. So essentially, the student would be eligible and not participating as far as the participation, the SWDS table is concerned, and then it would be a withdrawal. So one thing to take note that parent revocation is a cessation of service, and most likely the student is supposedly not eligible. However, we would still categorize that currently right now as eligible and not participating. Okay, next year we're gonna have another code, and another code to actually distinguish those students that where the parents revoke consent. Okay, as opposed to withdrawal. So that would be next year. But for this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brandy, but it would still be eligible and not participating for this instance. And
yeah, it would. But I think that what she's probably asking is, we exited this student as a 76 2 years ago, and now the parent's revoking consent. So how do we do that in SACE is what I'm assuming you're asking. Because now it's going to be a 24, which is a
withdrawal.
So you know what? Do me a favor and submit a ticket, because I kind of want to talk this through, because it's probably not the first time it's going to come up for next year. And I just want to make sure that we're giving you the appropriate advice given the new way SACE is doing things. So.
All right. Thank you very much, Brandy.
All right, thank you much. And we do have a request from Angela to speak to the hyphenated names again. So we're going to cut back to Angela here really quick.
Yeah, it wasn't as straightforward as I was hoping. So I ran through where my request record had a hyphenated last name and my existing candidate had two names but no hyphen. I did get the candidate back in my Elasticsearch results file, but only as a 90% match, not as a 100% match. So that kind of surprised me. And then I saw in your discussion there that Ethan, you were asking about what happens when you manually create them rather than do a batch through this new tool or existing results file. That's not changing with this Elasticsearch functionality that's going to go out soon. If you're doing it manually, it's going to work as it currently does.
All right, thank you, Angela. Moving on, we're going to go to, let's see, that would be Catherine at 306 Q1. I have several students that when I upload the SPRG for the student, I receive an error message SPRG 0253 invalid migrant student ID. I verified that the ID numbers are correct. Do we know what is causing this error and how to correct it? Gary did suggest one thing to check is the migrant student ID number being submitted. Be sure it has the leading 0. Sometimes the Excel drops it. Migrant student ID must be exactly 11 characters with the first 2 characters beginning with 06. So just make sure that it's 11 characters, has that leading 0, and is followed immediately by a 6. So looks like you got the message, and that was it. Good job, Gary. Way to remotely troubleshoot.
Thank you.
306 Lou, Q1. My email address has changed and I didn't receive the announcement regarding the training. Where do I submit the ticket, CALPADS or CSIS? If you submit a change of address to the CALPADS service desk, it should get propagated through the entire system, right?
Yeah, but it's likely it's a bridge account, so you can send it to the CSIS service desk.
Okay, perfect. All right, moving on to Carol at 307 Q1. What exit code do I use for a TK student who is not moving to a new school? They're just not going to attend school this year. Is there a code similar to the pre-K exit I can use? And on screen, Alex is pulling up the various exit codings that are available, filtering the list to show only the TKs. And those are the available exit coding for TK students. So you can use, let's see, pretty much anything there. Even just the generic E400, other are unknown. And as a TK, they're not going to fall into a dropout category. I think dropouts are only aggregated for 9 through 12.
It is, but also E400 is appropriate because TK is not compulsory.
There we go. Right for all the wrong reasons, I guess. All right, moving on to Shelley at 308 Q1. Is it okay to remove a suspension from the 22-23 school year? A school is asked to remove one. Do I remove the sync, SIRS, and SOF records and remove the suspension counts from STAS on CALPADS, or do I just remove it in my SIS and leave the data in CALPADS? I'll say it kind of depends. Why are they asking to remove it? Was it a court order type of thing and it just needs to disappear? Or was it board just kind of relax things and change the outcomes? And either way, you're going to want to update CALPADS. They forgot to remove it last year. Okay, yeah, go through and amend it, but you also are going to end up with, like I said, the legacy certified numbers that are going to include those incidents, results, and offenses. So whoever was involved in it, you should make notes that, you know, they have previously been reported, should not have been. We deleted it after. That's why you're seeing different counts than what you're seeing today. So, you know, make the corrections, but again, document so you have an explanation later if it ever comes up in an audit. All right, Leah at 309 Q1, follow up on the question asked by Bhavita. Will we need to submit a summer SCNR record in order to report summer grads under the new dashboard timeline? Well, the new dashboard timeline, I believe, ends that calendar at June 30th. So all you would have to do is, if the original end date was, oh, actually, wait a minute. I need to submit a summer. Well, they would need to complete their summer school before June 30th. And at that point, then they would use that completion date prior to June 30th as the enrollment end date. So it would not be a big issue. You wouldn't have to create just a one-day enrollment. You can just extend that enrollment out. All right, Nathan, I see your Q3. Will we come back to that? Yadira 311 Q1, just to confirm or verify if a student from another LEA was marked as TBD with unknown in kinder, and the student is now my kiddo, and the admins say he should be an EO, because the parent does not want the student tested, shouldn't we still have to test the student? Side note, the student is a SPED student. All right.
So,
Well, go ahead,
yeah.
please.
No, go ahead. You answer it, and then we can tweak as necessary, if necessary.
No, please. This is a weak spot for me.
Okay, so if a student has been classified as, or their initial English language acquisition status is TBD, it means very likely that there's a language other than English on the home language survey. So districts are instructed for questions 1, 2, and 3 on the home language survey. If there's a language other than English, then they should test the student because the student has a right to EL services. They have some discretion if they answered that primary language on the last question on the home language survey, which is question 4. So they have some discretion and they can make a decision. If it was questions 1, 2, or 3, you should test the student and then figure out whether or not the student is an English learner. So the student cannot be exempted from testing. What can happen is if the student is designated as an English learner, the parent can request a waiver from the EL program, which means they just won't be put into, an EL program at the school, but that designation will stay, or they can go through the correction process immediately afterwards if the parent can and the school can produce evidence that the student was tested erroneously.
All right, thank you. Let's see here. All right, and Jerry at 312. Hi, Paul. Hi, Jerry. Regarding the summer graduates, what will this look like for LEAs that do diploma holds? We see this happen at the end of summer. A student will have a course with 5 credits left to graduate. Perhaps they didn't pass the course and have to take it again during the summer. And take the course during the summer, and then their LEA will retroactively graduate the student with the initial May-June exit date in CALPADS. They can do that since the student enrolls at our LEA for a short-term enrollment during the July-August, and that ends up being an enrollment after they graduate, which prevents them from updating their exit to E23100. So they ask us to remove our July-August enrollment. I was just curious if CSIS or CDE suspects that the new 6/30/2024 cutoff date for the new grad might minimize the occurrence of these diploma holds. Thanks, Jerry.
Well, I think it's certainly an incentive for the district not to do.
Yeah.
But the other thing I would say is that, given the new rules, what ends up happening is if you report a student with a graduation date after June 30th, they end up getting counted as a 5th-year grad in the subsequent year's adjusted cohort graduation rate. So, will administrators think differently about those practices locally? Potentially. But, we can't be sure.
So, Brandy, though, part of it is that they backdate things too. And so if you look at
it could increase that practice, sure, certainly.
Yeah, but they have to get it done. If they were to backdate it, right, they have to get it done before EOY ends. Otherwise, that data doesn't get in. So,
Well, and the other question is whether or not it's appropriate.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? So, and I think the CalPADS office will probably have to come through with some guidance about whether or not it's appropriate to backdate if the student did not meet the credit requirements by June 30th, the graduation requirements.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a 308 question from Asya with a 313 follow-on from Robin. Q1, what is the reason for the dashboard taking 2 to 3 months to generate after end of year has been certified? Follow on, also wondering this, it seems like it would make more sense to have them speed up that process than to bring our deadlines forward so much.
I think what a lot of people don't realize is that many of you think that what you certify in CalPADS and those reports and those aggregates actually get stored in that manner, and they don't, right? What gets stored is the individual level student data that you certify. Then those data actually have to be harvested from the CalPADS database, and they go through a whole series of post-processing where they're putting data and normalizing data or denormalizing data to put it in tables for use in the dashboard. So that process is very lengthy. And also the data that goes into the dashboard are super high stakes. So it's really important. Oftentimes they have multiple people parallel processing those files just to make sure that they're getting it correct. And what they're putting on the dashboard is accurate. So although 2 to 3 months seems like a long time for you guys in terms of the time it takes to get those data posted, but I think you would probably think differently if we did a shorter time period and then there were mistakes and the data weren't as high quality, because they do really have a rigorous process, and that's the reason it takes so long.
Thank you, Brandy. All right, moving on to Richard, 307 Q1. I am not allowed to change my forgotten password to change it so I can register for Fall 1 training. Goes on to say, to show the error. All right, this sounds like a CSIS help desk or a
Yep,
yeah,
CSIS for bridge.
Yeah, a CSIS help desk question for bridge. So just go ahead and
if it's
go ahead.
OSNAP, the invite had an explanation of how to get past that. If you try to reset
this one, the error is get back into your account. We're sorry you can't reset your own password because the password reset isn't properly set up for your organization.
Oh.
You must contact your administrator to reset both of your passwords. Okay, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, new one to me.
All righty. Ethan, Q1 304. Hi, everyone. Hi, Ethan. Are there any updates coming to SSID matching results when they are hyphenated students? We talked about this. Okay, sorry. Oh, running. All right, I think. 317, Kara. Q1, for the SPED redesign, are pending transactions for students currently being assessed for an initial IEP required?
Are pending transactions required in the new redesign or right now? I guess we're in the new redesign practically. So the answer is no. They are not required unless, and even what I'm about to say is not actually required. We only expect pending records for initial evaluations, for annuals, and for triennials, if in fact that meeting is now overdue and is late. Because what you can do now is you can be proactive and give us the meeting delay code before the meeting's held. If you are a SACE user, I believe that what SACE is doing is they're automatically generating a pending transaction when you receive parental consent for evaluation for an initial. So they'll automatically send up a pending record even if the meeting is not overdue, right? But the only time that we would like that is when any of your meetings are actually overdue, and then you're being proactive to tell the department why the meeting isn't being held, because we're allowing you to send up the meeting delay code prior to the meeting being held. So, but even then, it isn't required. But what the consequence of not sending those up is that your monitoring reports, once the new monitoring reports go up, is those students are going to show up as late.
All right, thank you. All right, Andrew, 312 Q1, do LIP records need to be closed out yearly, or should they remain open until they are redesignated? And below that, we have a couple different answers, and they're all right, even though they're all different. Based on the data guide, what you're going to see is that those records should be verified each year. If they have not changed, they can remain open from year to year. However, as Carol points out, she updates hers each year based on the service they are receiving. So were I pressed for a hard answer, I would go with Carol's, that every year they should be assessed for what services they are receiving. And it may be completely universal. It may, from year to year, but it may not. And if it does change, the longitudinal nature of CALPADS wants to report that. So while they can remain open from year to year, they need to be verified every year as well. So just keep that in mind. All right, and I think I missed some of those because I'm going back through trying to find where I was when this thing flipped. Okay. Larney, Q1, 326. Q1, Brandy, are we now reporting dropout exit reason for SPED students through the SWDS, eligible but not enrolled? This is applicable to our SPED students who are expected to return this academic year but did not show up even after numerous phone calls to the family or student.
So yes, for the very first time in the new SPED redesign, one of the things we're capturing is a status called eligible not enrolled. That eligible not enrolled is intended to capture when a student transfers out of the country, out of the state, when they are some sort of high school completer, they drop out. And let me be really clear when I say drop out. The assumption is if you're using that 40, which is the truant no known enrollment, or they don't have any known enrollment, and you're using, say, E400, that your attendance staff have done their due diligence, right? They've completed a comprehensive investigation as to the student's whereabouts, and they can't be found. So if your student information is capturing one of those dropout codes, then yes, you would populate that within your special education data system to submit up a status of eligible, not enrolled.
Thank you, Brandy. Again, let's see, Ray at 328 Q1. Are there any penalties for reporting out TBDs on census day if a student's enrollment starts on 10/3, for example, and they're still TBD since they have yet to test? Yeah, as long as that TBD hasn't aged out, I think you have, what, 30, 60 days, something like that, before it ages out?
30 days.
There you go, 30 days. So 10/3, the day before census day, yeah, you're not going to be penalized for that. But as Robin points out, it's not going to be aggregated like an EL. It'll just be kind of an undetermined and identified as TBD for language.
Yeah, you lose the opportunity to have them be identified as an EL on your LCFF if you can't get them tested before census day. But you don't get penalized for that.
Let's see. Rosario 334. Sorry, I just came in. In today's Fall 1 training, grads with exemptions SB 532 needs to be reported in the subsequent year. Why not in the year they graduated?
So Rosario, they can be reported in the fourth year if they meet the graduate requirements within that fourth year. However, if they don't, then what SB 532 allows them to be able to do is be able to complete that fifth year, and then they're reported in that fifth year cohort.
All right, thanks, Sean. Marcy 336 Q1, similar to previously asked questions about TBD to EO. We have a student that was listed as TBD as a kindergarten student at a prior district. Student never attended the district and went straight to a private school. Has been in the private school until coming to us this year as a 9th grader. Family completed our HLS indicating all English and say that the HLS at the prior school was wrong and the student shouldn't have been marked as TBD at that time. Can we put in our EO record now that the student is with us, or will that cause an error at some point due to the prior TBD? And up on the screen, Alex has presented us the iterative flow chart. And let's see. Oop, I pressed the wrong damn button. Oh, and there's also the there. Okay. And she's pulling up the various code combos here. What can happen?
So TBD to EO does not require a correction code. Just add the EO as long as it's a newer status date.
And there you go. Thank you for clarifying that. Let's move on. Lalani at 3:30 Q1 for elementary students that go to PE music with a different teacher than their main self-contained teacher. Do those itinerant teachers need a section with students assigned to them? And if so, can we put all K through 4 students in one section and all the 5, 6 students or the 5th and 6th grade students in another section? And
So, Leilani, yes, they do need sections. The itinerant teachers need sections. You do not have to assign students to those itinerant teachers, but you do need to put up that course there. And you have to label the teacher as itinerant in your SIS system.
And just to be clear, you would need 2 separate courses for that teacher because there are 2 distinct course codes for elementary, I believe 3 and 4 and another one for 5 and 6. And that's because the instructional minutes are different within those groups. So it's departmentalized elementary physical education 3 to 4 and 5 to 6, I think.
all right, moving on to Cindy, 328. Q1, why does our 1.17 report no longer give me a total enrollment count that includes TK students? I tried a different age eligibility drop-down options and the total enrollment numbers don't change. I put in a ticket and was told that TK students are not included on this report. Are we not tracking if TK students qualify for free and reduced, foster, homeless, DC, or EL? I believe they're included, but you need to, I think, manually add them to the grade level right now. Hold on, we're looking
Also,
for
the age eligibility was moved to 1.1 starting last year, if that's what she's referring to.
So these are funding. This is really important. Those reports, 1.17 is showing you LCFF funding eligible TK and kindergarten students. So in order to be eligible for LCFF funding and apportionment, exactly. So Alex is showing you the rules here. So in 23-24, they're eligible for TK if they turn 5 between September 2nd and April 2nd. So only TK kids that are going to show up on 1.17 are those TK kids that are funding eligible, which is the rules that Alex just showed you. If you want to see all of your TK students, then you're going to have to use report 1.1, which will show you all students with grade level TK, regardless of whether or not they're funding eligible. Hope that makes sense.
And it was Flash 240, I believe, that talked about the change to 1.1 and 1.17.
Yeah, there it is. And it was already highlighted on your screen, Alex. This is one of those frequent flyer ones, right?
I click on all of them.
All right, moving on to Swanzetta at 340 Q1. Hello, when reporting in-house suspensions, does the dashboard count partial days or does it does it count once the partial days accumulate to a full day for a student? So the way I'm reading that question is if they're in-house suspension for 1.5 days twice, so a 1.5 day suspension and a second 1.5 day suspension, is that 3 days out because 1.5 plus 1.5 is 3, or is it 4 days because they were out a total of 4 days? And Alex is pulling up.
What they're
the
probably
technical-
trying to get out is you have a student who was suspended for 2 periods on one day and 2 periods on another day, which does not equate to a full day. In order to be counted in the dashboard in the suspension numerator and or the suspension numerator, you have to have been cumulatively suspended for at least 1 full day. So they're looking across the student suspensions in the entire academic year at that school and adding up the suspension days, and it has to cumulatively equal at least 1 full day in order to be counted in the numerator and the suspension rate.
Thank you, Brandy. Thank you for that clarification. And moving on to Arena 323 Q1, our special ed person sent up the SPED and SSRV files from Cyrus on Monday by mistake. I don't know how she was able to do that, but the files went through. What do we need to do now? And as Sean pointed out, you can send up a delete transaction. You can copy all of those same files into a SPED record of the SPED file template, identify them as delete transactions by populating the transaction type with a D, saving it, and then submitting it. So you can, and Irina, you can do it. You just may not have done it yet. So open up a service desk ticket and we'll walk you through that. Rocio 344 Q1, we have a new TBD student that needs to take an initial LPAC assessment, but another district enrolled the student as well. I tried contacting the district, but no response. What other steps can we take? You could disenroll or you could exit the student and then re-enroll the student using the day after the subsequent enrollment, which then makes you the primary owner of that enrollment again. But it, of course, makes that enrollment container look like hell until the other LEA comes back.
But I think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, well, it's I think the only pragmatic way forward at this point.
Yeah, if you're not getting a response.
Yeah, so pragmatically exit the student, re-enroll them using the day after the subsequent enrollment start date. And then as soon as they do get back to you and correct their problem, and go ahead and remove that second enrollment, remove the enrollment end date, so it's one continuous enrollment for the year. All right, Rose, okay, that we already did that one. Okay, Andrew, I see you Q2. All right, Q2, go. All right, it looks like I missed Charlene's question at 317, but that puts me at the bottom. So now I'm going to go up and hit Charlene's and then go back and hit the Q2s. So 317, let's see if I can't find 317. There you are, Charlene, 317 Q1. We have a couple of students whose CELA containers are empty, yet they were tagged TBD and tested EL IFEP in our SIS. I understand there's an issue with TOMS to CALPADS interface. Is there a known issue about this? I have a tendency to agree with Robin that the TOMS to CALPADS communication, I think, has been ironed out, and generally a TBD would not be removed. Usually it would just sit there as a TBD and then nothing would follow.
They get the EL IFEP status from TOMS. It comes into CALPADS. You're not able to make that on your own.
Gary had that ticket, not Charlene's, but the same scenario last week. Gary, do you remember what you found? You want to say it was
I think I went
Jesse
back.
from Pajaro.
Yeah, it was, I agreed when I looked, it was missing, but then a lot of times I say, well, let's just let this wait overnight and see what happens. The next day it was there, the EO was there. So I don't know. And it was about the same time that they put the fix it too. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Right. Well, see how this goes.
I need a ticket on that one, maybe.
Yeah, I think a ticket would be good. Just if nothing else to monitor that, just in case. So if you wouldn't mind, please put in a service desk ticket on that reporting, that issue, but also include the job IDs where you created those TBDs if you still have them, the job IDs, that is. Otherwise, just describe the situation. We'll do our best to monitor that. All right, Nathan, 304 Q2 for collecting parent education data. What options are available to us if a parent refuses to contact? Are we allowed to mark them as declined to state after a certain number of reach out attempts? Yeah, it's the option is there, declined to state, and I believe that option is going to be changing its definition in the upcoming build. So make sure to follow up on that. But yes, you can put them in as declined to state if they just don't put it in the paperwork. And you're reaching out to them to try and collect it is just being nice. But obviously being a tough guy doesn't work out for data collection. So yes, you can set an internal policy for when to mark them as, declined to state, or you could do it right off the bat and continue to reach out to them. Both would be valid strategies. All right, so now still scrolling, looking for more Q2s. Okay, a Q3 from Nathan. What is the exit code for a student who is leaving to homeschool? And as Brandy has pointed out on this call multiple times, in California, there is no such thing as homeschool. So the parent should provide an affidavit of private school and then exit them as T260, I believe. Is it T260?
T180.
Yeah,
Nope,
T180.
T180. I'm sorry, T180, private school. But they should have that affidavit for the private school submitted to you as well, so that way you have a substantiation there. Now, in the data guide, I believe it also includes acceptable documentation column. So for the T180, you may want to verify what the acceptable, how do you go? There you go. There's the acceptable documentation for a T180 exit is a request for student records that were received from a private school in California, a written record of response from an official in the receiving school program acknowledging the student's enrollment. Well, now I feel like an idiot because the affidavit's not listed on there. Brandy, how would you answer that?
Go ahead, Sean.
Oh, Sean,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
so
how would you answer
It's
that?
okay. Either one. So the affidavit normally, the affidavits don't come out between 10:1 to 10:15. And so what the parent can do though is send you that email confirmation that yes, they have gone ahead and confirmed that they've at least applied for it. And then once they send you that email confirmation, then that's your verification that yes, they're going to be exited out to that T180.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. All right, still looking. Still looking, still scrolling. Oh, so yes, this is why we like to have you label them Q1, Q2, etc. So that way I can quickly scroll through regardless of what my screen does. Q2, Andrew, 350. Q2, I have two TOSA, TOSA for behavior intervention staff who need to have a CALPADS code. So we're talking about a non-classroom based job assignment.
Yeah, and there's a teacher on special assignment is a new code.
And so that'll be, and there it is, the 6028. So there you go, Andrew. They were able to find it, 6028, teacher on special assignment. All right, Q2, Catherine Moore, 317. Good afternoon. I wanted to point out that I'm not sure if my CCE anomalies are working correctly. I have run across a few duplicate enrollments each time I have corrected them, although I have noticed that they are not showing up on my anomalies list. I ran into two today that did not correct, so we could look at them in an example. I will correct after the meeting. Shouldn't this student show up on my CCEs? This falls into that category of a very specific question that, should probably be put in as a service desk ticket. So I'm going to ask that you please put that in as a CALPADS service desk ticket. We're also rolling just at the 4 o'clock hour, so I want to respect your time. If you need to leave, please do so. We appreciate you being here, and we will see you back next time. For those that are going to stick around, I'm going to keep scrolling to get through my Q2s and above.
You keep scrolling, Paul, but Angela, when we do the rollover, do we change the dates on the mid detection? Is there something with the calendar dates on that?
Yes. Yeah. But you can actually toggle to 23, 24 right now.
Oh, okay. And when I say mids, I meant anomalies.
Yeah, we always keep 2 academic years because they kind of span over each other.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Q2 again, Larney, 338. When we receive the access to download data file for long-term EL and ARLT, AR long-term EL, a file specification document was included which shows the definition of LTEL, LTEL, long-term English learner. We were under the impression that the LTEL are only EL students who have been enrolled in the US 6 years or more. The definition is actually broader, such as the same English language proficiency level for AR LTEL. We also have to consider LPAC and CASP scores. How does CDE calculate or identify LTEL and ARLT? How do we determine a student is a US enrollment when CALPADS only has California schools and not other states? We are hoping to identify these students locally as we don't know how to do it according to CDE's definition.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going, whew, that was a long one.
I cannot tell you specifically the rules that the accountability measurement and analysis reporting division uses, AMARD. So what I would suggest is that you forward a question to the LTEL office, and they probably have some documentation on it, on how exactly they make, how they aggregate the data and create those counts for you. But how you would calculate those things locally may actually differ. So anyway, that would be my first recommendation, is to contact them.
Okay, thank you, Brandy. Okay,
Did we get the question at 317 from Charlene?
We did hit that one again.
Okay, thank you.
But thank you for checking on me. Let's see. Looking. All right, Chantal, Q2, 4 o'clock. Following up on the exit to private school affidavit, I had a parent send me this link to CDE when we were following up with them. How would this affect the previous answer? Let's click on that link and find out. All right, it is, private school, private/homeschool guidance and resources for LEAs is where that resolves to. All right, disenrolling students to attend private/homeschools upon receiving a parental request to withdraw a student from public school. The LEA shall follow local procedures for disenrolling the student from their LEA. LEAs should be aware that the filing of the private school affidavit PSA is not a prerequisite to withdraw a child from the intent to enroll them in a private/homeschool. Therefore, the LEA's disenrollment procedures shall not include the requirement for parents to show proof of a filed PSA.
So is she asking if that's the guidance that she should follow?
I think that she's asking about the contradiction. We provided an answer that asked for the PSA, and this one specifically says don't ask for a PSA.
Yeah, and I think that Sean's coming from the context of, obviously she was at the local level, right? And that's probably a policy that they had implemented, was to actually require it. But for homeschooled students, particularly if it's on the CD's website and it's telling you you cannot require the private school affidavit as a condition of exiting them with a T180 to homeschool.
The way I read the FAQ though is that it is saying that, right? It's saying upon the
Yeah.
parent notification, withdraw the student. However, follow up and make sure that you're getting that PSA. And it tells you when you can expect it, is how I read that FAQ.
But you can't require it.
Not to,
No.
yeah.
Yeah, you can't require it, but that's what you follow up. And then there's a contact list for private schools that you can request per like county. And that'll give you like all of the private schools that were approved, or all the private schools listed, and that after that 10/15 date.
Alrighty. All right, I think that actually gets us to the bottom of the list because Irina's.
That's it, Alex. Sorry, Paul. That was
That's
it,
okay.
Alex. You were showing, and you just have to request that password. I can't. I've had it for so long that I don't know who I got it from. CDD right there, private school. So just send an email there, and I'll give it to you. Thank you.
Hey, Alex, can you drop that in the chat?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. I think we've hit the bottom. We've bottomed out. We're at the absolute bottom of the well here. And Alex did just put in the private school data, private schools group, contact information. No, I keep posting. All right. We're after 4. I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. Very robust session today. If you have any questions between now and the next Q&A, please put in a CalPADS service desk ticket. We'll get back to you as quickly as we can. And by the time we get back to you next week, hopefully the year-end rollover will have completed and we'll have a whole new batch of problems to talk about. So it'll be super fun.
Buckle up, huh? Hey, thanks to Robin too. Robin out Benicia. She was very helpful today.
Yes, she was.